Well, actually, let me talk about a little bit about Periscope first. Periscope, I think, is going to be a really good thing. Clay Travis did a really good piece about the app and what it could bring to the table. Probably about a week or so ago, maybe a little bit more than that. You could do things like I'm doing right now. Just have a little question and answer session. You could have instances where you have a person just talking about the game, where just kind of giving their thoughts, their opinions about what they're seeing going on at the time. So that's kind of what I'm experimenting with right now. So like I said, if you want to put some questions in, just feel free to type them on the chat. And I'll just kind of get things started with everything that we've been seeing about preseason predictions, about Mississippi State's preseason predictions. I gave you mine for the Bulldogs back in March. Mine was Mississippi State would end up winning the SEC West. Obviously, there's a lot that could go right, could go wrong for the Bulldogs as we enter 2015. But I'm sure you're well aware, I'm sure everyone else has made you well aware, that the Bulldogs are picked by most to finish last, finish sixth, somewhere around there. Don't get too worked up over predictions. We obviously all saw where Mississippi State finished last year. Most people had Mississippi State predicted anywhere around 5th or 6th last year. So I don't know if that's where they're going to, and we ended up finishing second in the SEC West, so we can't count too much into predictions. Will they finish sixth? Will they finish seventh? I don't know. Nobody knows. The SEC West is that difficult. I mean, it really is. The big thing with Mississippi State this going into 2015 is, can the offense do what it did or better than it was last year? And can the defense at least match what they gave us in 2014? I don't think they have to do a whole lot more than that. The defense wasn't our specialty last year. We gave a bunch of big plays, so I foresee us basically being about the same. I would like to see Mississippi State get a lot more out of the running game and take a lot of the pressure off Dak Prescott. That's kind of what I think is going to need to happen in 2015 for them to be just as successful as they were last year. They've got to get more from the running backs and count on Dak Prescott less so in the running game. If they can do that, I think that you're going to see a lot of success come the Bulldogs' way. The biggest question that seems to be on everybody's mind as they make all these predictions is how much are they going to get out of the offensive line? And I kind of agree with MSU Lewis. I think the defense is going to. I think the defense could be improved. I think they're losing Bernard McKinney. That's going to be a big time loss. They're losing Preston Lewis. That's going to be a big loss. But the front seven will be fine. The linebackers aren't going to be a problem. The lineman won't be a problem. Chris Jones, I think, will have a much better year than he did last year, simply from the standpoint he's going to be with the starters. He wasn't with the starters last year. They were relying heavily on him in the second unit, and they were basically focusing solely on him when he was in the game, as opposed to passing, basically shifting some of the focus towards other members of the defensive line. I think he could have a huge year, so I think that's going to be I think it's a necessity for Chris Jones to have a huge year if Mississippi State wants to be good, be anywhere close to as good as they were in 2014. I really think Jamal Peters will end up playing quite a bit next year. I really do. I think he'll be the type of guy who steps in and contributes immediately. I think he can play well both in the passing and in the running game. He's a physical, from everything that I've seen of him at least, he seems to be a physical player. He doesn't shy away from contact. He likes to get up there and mix it up. So I have high hopes for him. I think he'll do really well as a freshman. He'll make some freshman mistakes. There's no question about it. But I don't think he'll make any mistakes that weren't made last year. So I really think he'll be a big-time contributor to the defense in 2015. Now then, back to what I was talking about earlier. The offensive line is the biggest question that most people seem to have for Mississippi State. Will they be better? Will they be worse? Everybody seems to be focusing on the fact that they're losing 3 starters in the upcoming season. I'm not really worried about losing 3 starters. They have Martinez Rankin coming in. I think he contributes immediately. I think he will play just as well as, if not better than, any of the offensive linemen that they lost from 2014. So I don't think they're going to miss a beat there. The one thing that I do worry about a little bit with the offensive line is depth, and if there are any injuries. That was the one area that we really didn't see or suffer from last year, and as the Mississippi State offensive line just really, it stayed together for the most part. The only time they really had to worry about attrition was in the one game that Dylan Day got suspended. Other than that, the offensive line was pretty much intact all year long. So I'm hoping that that will be the case this year as well, because that's always going to be a problem whenever you have injuries to your offensive linemen. If they can avoid injuries, I think they'll be fine. Yeah, they're losing 3 starters, but I think the ones that they have coming in will be just as good, if not better, than what they're replacing. If you go by the scouting services, they'll tell you that basically you're looking at more talented players coming in than the ones that are being replaced. Now, the biggest issue I have with any of the predictions, the biggest issue that I have with any of the things that people have been saying about what Mississippi State can do in the 2015 season is the fact that they're putting Dak Prescott as a Heisman contender. They're putting him most likely as the first-team All-SEC preseason quarterback. And that's fine, but it's not going to jive with last place or next to last place finishes in the SEC West. There is no way that Dak Prescott will be the first team SEC All-SEC quarterback in 2015 if the Bulldogs finish 6th or 7th. That's just not happening. It doesn't matter what he does as a quarterback. It doesn't matter if he breaks all the records that he broke last year. He's not going to be the first team quarterback for the SEC and the Bulldogs finish in 6th or 7th place. It's just not happening. There's too much of an emphasis placed on winning for quarterbacks nowadays. So that's just not going to happen. Mississippi State is going to be, if Dak Prescott has an incredible year and the Bulldogs finish in 6th place, he won't be the first team All-SEC quarterback. Second team, probably, but not first team. Like I said, there's just too much of an emphasis placed on winning. So I don't know why people are predicting Mississippi State to finish in 6th or 7th place, but they're also predicting Dak Prescott to be the best quarterback in the SEC. Now, some people are saying maybe in the SEC he will be, but he might get surpassed. I just don't see it happening. I know a lot of people that have really high expectations of Kyle Allen at Texas A&M because he was such a highly recruited player. I don't know. I just don't have a whole lot of faith in the Texas A&M system. I think Johnny Manziel did a lot to propel that program to where it was. So I don't really think that what they're bringing to the table is going to be that special in 2015. He's got some players, there's no question about that, out at wideout that can make some plays, but I just don't see Kyle Allen having that great of a year. And Jeremy Johnson seems to also be the one that a lot of people are talking about going into 2015 at Auburn. People say, well, he was probably better than Marshall and should have started over Marshall last year, and that's possible, but I don't know. I just guess I see, I just don't know that I see weight issues with him. I see discipline issues in terms of physical discipline with him. I don't know that he's going to have this breakout year that so many people seem to think that he's going to have. Maybe I'm wrong. Wouldn't be the first time, but I just don't think that you're going to see this huge year, this step up and change the way that Auburn plays football. I mean, Auburn and Gus Malzahn has always been run-first oriented team. I foresee that staying the case next year as well. I don't think that they're going to change the way they do things just because of Jeremy Johnson. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it happening. So, can Dak Prescott be the best quarterback in the SEC and Mississippi State finish 6th or 7th? No, he cannot. So, one of those two things have got to give. Either Mississippi State's not going to finish 6th or 7th, or Dak Prescott isn't going to be the best quarterback in the SEC. And I think there is plenty of evidence that shows that Dak Prescott will be. He'll have another year, and as long as the offensive linemen will hold up their end of the bargain, he should be fine. He should have as good of a year as he did last year. He may not have as many passing yards, but I think he'll cut down on some of the turnovers that he committed late in the season. And I think you'll see a big improvement out of Prescott. He knows that his NFL future is riding on this year. He's got to show improvement. He's got to show the fact that he can pass more accurately. And even though his completion percentage was around 61 or 62% last year, it's not bad. That needs to be higher, but he also needs to show that he can lead his receivers more so than he did last year. So that's kind of what we're looking at for Mississippi State in terms of their preseason predictions. Don't get too caught up on it. They could finish last. Look, that's how good the SEC West is. It's possible. But I just don't see them taking this major, huge step back. I think they're beating LSU. I think they're going to beat basically everybody at home. I've got them beating everybody at home. I could definitely see them losing to Alabama. There's the Egg Bowl. People will say, well, they can always lose to Ole Miss. If nothing over the past two Egg Bowls has taught us anything, it should have taught us that there is no way, unless one team is just really, really bad, that the home team is losing the Egg Bowl. Mississippi State should not have won the Egg Bowl in 2013. Let's just be real honest. They spent the first 3 quarters of the game without their starting quarterback, with their third stringer in there. They had really no offensive production whatsoever. They had no way to go to. They had really nothing to count on in that game, and they still won. If we go back to last year, Ole Miss should not have won that game. I mean, if you look at what they did, they had nobody on. They had their quarterback was hobbled. He was as gimpy as could be. They had no running game whatsoever to speak of, and everyone said going into that game, unless Ole Miss has a huge game from Bo Wallace and the Bulldogs commit a ton of turnovers, there was no way the Bulldogs were going to lose. Well, Mississippi State didn't have any turnovers, and Bo Wallace had a subpar game, and they still won because for the first time all year, Ole Miss started running the ball, they started blocking well on the offensive line, and Mississippi State couldn't do anything on the defensive line. Like I said, there was no reason that Mississippi State should have lost that game in 2014. There's no reason Ole Miss should have lost that game in 2013. The only thing that seemed to be consistent in those two games was the fact that the home team won both games. So, I don't know. I'm just not real convinced that the Egg Bowl is going to be won by a visiting team. And let's face it, it's in Starkville this year. So, I mean, yeah, you can argue lots of things about talent and recruiting rankings and returning starters and all that stuff, but for the past, since 2001, the only time that a home team has lost the Egg Bowl has been when the road team has been just the far superior team, and the home team was just terrible. That was in 2003 when Mississippi State lost it in Jackie Sherrill's final year at home, when we were one of the worst teams that Mississippi State's ever fielded, and in 2011 when Ole Miss fielded probably their worst team ever in Houston Nuts last year. And there's a consistent theme there as well. That sorry about that, lost my stand, fell over. The home teams had coaches on their way out. So there's something that's definitely consistent about that. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. This video will stay on Periscope for 24 hours, so you can come back and check it there. I'm going to post this on the website here the next few minutes. I'll probably post it at the 3 o'clock spot. It will stay active on Periscope for 24 hours after I have finished recording. I'm hoping that Periscope will eventually get this to the point where you can embed these into websites, kind of like they do with the tweets. I think that would just look a lot better. I would like to do that. I am going to include the video on the website. That way, if anybody wants to watch it, they can watch it there. Anyway, I'm hoping I'll try to do these at least once or twice a week. I'll probably do one tomorrow as well, maybe around the same time, around lunchtime. I might do it maybe a little bit later, try to get some more people in. My son has a baseball game this afternoon, so I had to do it a little bit earlier than I would have liked to. I'd like to do it a little bit closer to around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That way I can get some more participation involved in it. But if you're interested in it and you want to ever ask any questions, this would be a great time to do it. I may eventually sign up the Maroon and White Nation Twitter account for a Periscope account as well, get some more people involved in that through that particular Twitter account as well. So I hope you enjoyed it. My plan is to eventually, like I said, do these at different times, see what times I get the most interaction, the most viewers from. So like I said, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you next time.